Take us through what you're doing here, because it's fascinating. It really reflects a fundamental redo of your professional services organization.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thank you for having me here today. What we did over the last couple of years is we try to look around the corner. A big thing our clients look for us is not just to tell them what's happening today, but to help them peek around the corner and see what's going to define the big issues over the next 10 years. And as we did that, it became very clear that the single biggest element in terms of opportunity and challenges our clients will have is gaining trust and maintaining trust where expectations are going up and the topics are becoming broader over the next 10 years, and how companies balance profits and purpose, gain competitive advantage all across the globe. It's the issue that has led us to launching this new strategy, which is we call the new equation, which is leading to the investments that you spoke about, the change that we're making, all to make sure we're leading there with our clients, helping them see where we see that world going.
Yeah, and Tim, I dare say I think we saw some glimmers of that in the G7 meetings, actually, in the Cornwall consensus, where nations now are reaching out, and they're not just dealing with geopolitical issues, they're dealing with health issues, they're dealing with equality and inclusion. So when you talk about trust, because as I understand, one of your divisions is going to be the trust, right, consultancy, what does that include?
Yeah, so David, great point. What we saw very clearly today is there's good news for business. The good news today is business is amongst the most trusted institutions in the world. But when we peek around the corner, what's clear is the bar is going up and the number of topics that businesses will be expected to be trustworthy on is widening. So, for example, today we see financial reporting hugely important, tax reporting hugely important. But what's going to happen over the next several years, it'll go to issues like ESG, like tax morality, like tax fairness, data protection, data security, how you treat your workers, worker pay. And we see the number of topics going broader where businesses need to be trusted on. We did see a glimpse of that at the G7, and we'll continue to see that more and more. And a big part of what we're trying to do is make sure we're ready to meet our clients' needs as we lead them into the future. So one of the things that we're doing is we're in the U.S. reorganizing our business, and we will have the largest trust solutions business in the world as one of our two major segments to help our clients meet these needs. It'll drive investment and where we drive our clients and work with them to help them succeed.
So, Tim, as you know, a lot of people in the business community watch Bloomberg, and they like to have particulars. Break that down in trust solutions as opposed to consulting solutions. What goes in each of those buckets?
Great question. So what goes into Trust Solutions is first our legacy assurance business, which is hugely important and will continue to drive audit quality up. Our legacy tax reporting businesses, but also our very fast growing businesses such as ESG, diversity inclusion, governance, all goes in that business. Cybersecurity, where we look to drive more capabilities up, again, because they will define trust. And our consulting solutions business, it's our legacy advisory, deals, consulting, and tax consulting businesses, because in order to give strategy through execution consulting, we need to make sure tax is at the table because it's so important to companies' future strategies as well. So that's what's in the two segments. Both will see significant investment in as we look to meet those needs of our clients.
Tim, you brought up tax a couple times now. That was one of the things addressed at the G7 with the proposal for a global minimum tax. I mean, you know this area terribly well. Give us a sense of where that's going. And particularly, you talked about tax fairness. I guess that's one of the arguments for it.
Yeah, without a doubt, David. So when we look at what's happened all across the globe, virtually every major country has done a major stimulus package. They've used their balance sheets to guide their countries, their citizens through this incredibly crisis that we've seen. Ultimately, somebody has to pay for that. As we study the trends, what's clearly going to be important is tax will be a critical element of that. It's critical to individual countries. It's also critical to the overall global tax system. So it's not unreasonable. It's not a surprise that we're seeing things like a global minimum tax discussed. But what's equally important is each country will need their share as well to pay down their debt as they look to deal with those balance sheets. So we expect ongoing dialogue. And when I talk to CEOs, people understand that taxes will likely go up. They want to make sure it's fair, predictable, so they can plan for the long term. We'll see more and more of this as this plays out. I think the G7 was just the beginning.
Tim, let me try to put together two subjects that I think would go into your trust category. On the one hand, diversity and equity and inclusion, very much an issue on everyone's mind, and particularly U.S. business right now, and audits, because one of the issues is racial audits. Where do you come out on that? Do you have clients who are engaging that or thinking about it, deciding not to do it?
David, one of the things that gives me great optimism is I travel around now physically again, which is great, and virtually over the last year. As I speak with CEOs, what we're constantly hearing is a number of topics rise to the top of the list. I'm inspired by the fact that diversity and inclusion is on almost every CEO's minds. I'm inspired that I see ESG on the top of everybody's minds, in addition to the digital, cyber, and those topics. What I see is that businesses trying to think about how they look forward. One of the big things we're doing as part of the new equation is we are launching a $300 million 3-year commitment that we call Tomorrow Takes Trust. A big element of that is a trust institute where we will take 10,000 current and future C-suite executives to get them ready in the future as they need to deal with these complicated questions where we need to make progress as a business community. That Trust Institute will have 9 tracks, including diversity and inclusion, including supply chain, transparent reporting. I believe we live in the day and age of we're in the golden era of transparency. The Trust Institute will help companies and help executives learn how to lead and be ready for that future. Your question on diversity audits, that's just one element of the number of topics companies are going to need to deal with going forward. We want to make sure we do our part to help get our executives and our clients ready to deal with that world.
Tim, whenever I've seen a reorganization, including from inside a company, the question of headcount comes up. Do you expect, because of this major reorganization you're doing, to add heads, take away heads, stay the same? And just as important, perhaps, do you have the right heads? Because as you reposition, it's not clear the skills will be the same.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Without a doubt, we see this as a growth story, and we see the opportunity to meet our clients' needs as growth. Globally, we'll add net 100,000 jobs across the globe. In the U.S., we'll add 15 to 20,000 heads and opportunities. Your point about the right skill sets is incredibly important. A big part of our $12 billion investment globally, including in the U.S., is investing in our own people. We have a responsibility to lead with purpose. We have a responsibility to invest in our own people. Over the last 3 years, we've invested in digital upskilling of our people. We've made it akin to an employee benefit. We've also invested in diversity and inclusion. We will continue to invest in our own people in addition to hiring thousands of new skill sets. I'll give you a great example, David. All of our employees in the U.S. have gone through digital upskilling. They've gone through inclusive leadership training. The next big thing is ESG. I believe we have a responsibility to all 55,000 people in the U.S. to teach them the importance of ESG, where it's going, what level 1, scope 2 is, so they can understand to be relevant. If we do our job, our talent will be the most sought after talent in the world, not just because they have technical expertise, because they understand and are relevant on these important topics that define our society and where our clients will win or lose based on how well they do in these areas.